Hey, Packers fans, it's draft season. Joseph Randolph, Brian Maafi, and we're here to break down all the prospects, all the ones great and small, the ones you've heard about, maybe some of the ones you haven't heard about. But first off, we're going to get into the quarterbacks. Brian, what do you think about these guys today?
It's a top-heavy class for sure. It's good 5-6 guys, and then after that, kind of drops off a bit.
Yeah, it drops off a bit, but there's some value here. I think there's definitely some value here. There's some guys that you can start right away, and then there's some guys who you might need to develop. Like the Packers, take a guy and develop, and in a couple of years, maybe you might have something.
Yeah, maybe we'll see.
So there's one guy that everybody's talking about, Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
the generational QB, so to speak. But Caleb didn't do so well this year. He was a favorite to maybe possibly repeat for the Heisman, but he didn't do as well as we thought. What do you think was the issue?
Just kind of one thing that's always been kind of his issue. Just I'm always looking for the big play, not playing in the offense. Like just taking what's there. Just trying to, and it's, extending stuff too much, taking sacks, stuff like that is what's he hasn't didn't show any development from that this year from the previous year.
Yeah, he was looking for the big play a little too much. He depended on his feet a lot. And then there were some times where he had like some mental breakdowns where it was just like, it would be great, but when it was ugly, oh God, it was ugly. Some of those interceptions were just unforgivable. Especially that Tulane game. They should have won that, but some of those interceptions, I think, really just that really kept Tulane in the game. And then, USC didn't have the greatest defense, so they came back and then they won, and that was that.
Yeah, definitely. He's like I say, he tries to extend stuff too much, and then he'll take like some dumb sacks where there's check down is open and stuff like that. And, it really stunts their offense at times.
So, are we thinking still that generational prospect that we saw last year, or is it kind of come back to earth?
I think best way is probably in the middle. I don't know if I would call him generational. I wouldn't say he's Andrew Luck or anything like that as far as the prospect coming up. But I mean the potential is still there. It's just I feel like his bust potential is pretty high. But then if he hits, he's going to be really, really good. But if he busts, he's going to be maybe Johnny Manziel or something like that, or maybe not necessarily that bad, but at least that type of bust potential, I would say.
Well, it also ends up on where you go. So right now, the Bears haven't been doing too good with quarterbacks. They already got one in Justin Fields. So, and that's the other thing we have to worry about is does Justin Fields stay? Does he go? They were asking for a first. Now it's down to a second. And, if Caleb Williams will be there with the first overall pick. If they can't find a partner, does that force them to keep Justin Fields? Do they take Caleb and try to deal Fields later? That is really the number one question in this draft, because of this quarterback class. Where Caleb Williams goes really determines where everybody else goes.
Yeah, I mean he's probably gonna go number one regardless, but I mean we'll see. But once that first domino falls as far as what the Bears are gonna do, then everything's gonna go after that.
So do you think Caleb Williams can elevate above the Bears' cursed tradition of terrible quarterbacks? So right now, the most prolific Bears quarterback is Jay Cutler, and I love Jay Cutler for who he was as an athlete and a competitor, but mostly for all the games that he gave the Packers to win over the course of the years.
Exactly. I mean, he could, like I said, and the potential's there. Or, he could be the next, the next bust quarterback for the Chicago. It just depends on, which quarterback coach they get, or not necessarily which quarterback coach, but like how their quarterback coach develops him, the offense they put him in, if they develop him right, basically. That's the thing with him. If they can tailor the offense to his skills and that type of stuff, that's going to be the biggest issue. And of course, if he goes somewhere else, then that's the same. It's obviously the same questions as far as developing him and giving him the room to grow, develop, putting the enough talent around him and stuff like that. And It's just, yeah, he's more of a questionable thing.
They kept Matt Eberflus, he's a defensive coach.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think, when you get a brand new quarterback, you need an offensive coach or a great offensive mind. They did reshuffle their offensive coordinator and their offensive coordinating or offensive staff.
Right.
So, there might be some hope there, but at the end of the day, the guys got to go out there and produce, and there has to be a winning environment. Justin Fields has had moments, but I think he's kind of dependent more on with his legs and a little bit of a hero ball here and there. And Caleb Williams is kind of in the same mold, a little bit higher floor, I would think, but kind of in the same mold. So it'd be interesting to see they get rid of Fields, and if he finds success immediately somewhere else, then it's safe to say that he wasn't the problem. It's the Bears.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, there's potential that happens, that they trade him somewhere else, and then Caleb comes in, and Caleb ends up being a bust, and Fields ends up developing wherever he goes. So that's probably just the thing that they're working through this process.
And they still got to build around Caleb Williams. I mean, Fields got a little bit of help, but he still needs more. Additional receivers, tight ends, even in the running game. A better offensive line. We were talking about taking Tevin Jenkins years ago in the first half, and he had in the first round, and he nearly hasn't panned out, as we thought he was going to. But also, it's the same thing as the Bears have not been great for quite some time, really since Lovie Smith. It's still, as much as there's that hate for the Bears, but Lovie Smith was a great coach, and they got rid of him after winning 10 games, and they haven't smelled 10 games since. So it might be that environment. Justin Fields goes out of town, Tevin Jenkins goes out of town, and maybe they find success elsewhere. And if they do, I mean, that's going to be pretty damning on that organization if they can't bring in talent and elevate it to the right level to be a winning franchise.
Right. Exactly.
So if Caleb Williams doesn't go first, you think he's an automatic number 2?
You mean the number 2 quarterback? Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, if he doesn't go first, if he's the only quarterback, I think will push him for the top spot would be Drake Maye from North Carolina. If someone looks at him and looks at Williams and sees the bust potential, and then they trade Maye because he has a little bit of a higher floor, I could see something like that happening. But yeah, but as far as right now, I still think Williams goes first.
Well, let's get into it. Drake Maye from North Carolina. I think he might be closer to QB3. That's just me. He holds the ball a lot, and on some tape, he had some throws that just went in the dirt. They were just total ducks. Yeah. And I don't see that as top flight QB-esque, for lack of better words. You can't just be. I mean, quarterbacks will miss. Even the best quarterbacks will miss. Sometimes it's chemistry. Sometimes it's just maybe a slight adjustment in mechanics, footwork. The defense throws you off your spot. But there were some times he was clean and he just literally just threw it in the dirt. Like, well, how do you throw it in the dirt when you've got no pressure? He holds the ball a lot, and then he kind of. I don't mind the gunslinger mentality. I'm always going to be the best Brett Favre fan on the planet, but sometimes he just threw it out there, and I don't think UNC had the receiving core as it had in years past, where you can just be slinging that ball out there. Right. Tez Walker looked great at times, but if he wasn't available, the rest of the receiving core was a little bit of a downgrade as far as in talent. So I don't know. I don't know if he's QB2 in this class. Maybe 3, maybe even 4. But we'll see. And I hate to say it, or rather, maybe I should say it as a self-proclaimed scout. I'm a little biased on North Carolina quarterbacks. We had Trubisky. He came out and he hasn't fared too well. And who's the other quarterback from at Washington? They're about to jettison. Gosh.
Oh no, he's still there. No, I'm forgetting his name. He was got compared. He was got comparisons to Favre too when he was coming out. I'm forgetting his name. I can't think of his name right now either.
Gosh, now we're having a brain fart.
It's all right. But regardless, I mean, different players. I think.
Sam Howell. There we go.
Sam Howell, yeah.
Sam Howell, yeah. Sam Howell, and now we're up to Drake Maye, and let's see, was Mac Brown there when Trubisky was there? He's been there for a while now. It's been maybe been about 10 years
at the time. I think. Not 100% sure.
So I don't know what's going on. I mean Mac Brown had Vince Young at Texas, and he turned out okay. I don't know what happened between the well, he hadn't really had any good quarterbacks since Vince Young. So, but maybe they got lucky on that run. But I'm a little concerned about quarterbacks coming out of North Carolina. I don't, you hate to say like, oh, a school only puts out bad quarterbacks, but we said the longest about Ohio State, and CJ Stroud just broke that curse. But then at the same token, we'll flip the coin and say, well, who's DBU? Is it Miami? Is it Alabama? Or where's offensive line U? Is it Iowa? Is it Penn State? So I feel like if you can say, well, which school's known for putting out great prospects? Well, which schools are known for putting out traditionally bad prospects? And for right now, North Carolina has a little bit of a dark mark hovering over them with the quarterbacks they put into the NFL. You think he can break the curse?
Yeah, I think he can. Like I said, because I think his floor compared to Williams is a little bit higher. Because I just think at the worst, you're going to get a guy who can be a spot starter. At the worst, a guy who can be a spot starter. But the potential there is still to be, really, really upper echelon, good, top 10 quarterback in the league. Because I mean, yeah, he does make some dumb throws. People on Twitter, even some of the scouts, the Twitter draft scouts or whatever, they say every game he has a couple. I can't remember what the wording they use, but I think it was something like dumb throws or something like that. But he makes just some nutty throws sometimes too. You just see him just drop him in out of. You're just when there's no room for error, he just drops it in there. Usually those deep balls too. It's just he's another guy just like Williams. He just needs to be in the right system. Needs the right quarterback coach. Needs talent around him. Maybe we need to sit it for a year. We'll see. But I think the potential is there. Like I said, it's just that's always the thing with quarterbacks. These high level quarterbacks. It's just being able to be in the right, like I said, the right system, good quarterback coach, development, time develop. Talent around them. It's all that stuff is the most important, really.
Yeah, and depending on what happens with Caleb Williams, he may be going right to Washington and replacing, the guy that he succeeded, Sam Howell, and Dan Quinn. That's another defensive coach. But some teams are going to have defensive minded head coaches in some instances. It's all going to be on the OC and how he develops. And obviously Washington's turning over a new leaf, new ownership, new GM, new coach. They're getting their systems and procedures in place. So it could be a little rough for Drake, starting off. I mean, they certainly got, some off. I mean, Scary Terry, Gibson, Robinson. They've got some weapons there, a somewhat decent offensive line. They could probably upgrade there as well. But and then granted, they did bleed away Cam and Young and
on the D line, Young and Sweat.
And Sweat, yep. And so defense is going to be a little bit of regress, but there's some good bits to like there. But it really just depends on where he ends up. Maybe he doesn't end up in Washington. Maybe he ends up in New England with Gerard Mayo, another defensive-minded coach. A lot of defensive-minded coaches at the top of the draft, and they're looking for quarterbacks. There might be a trend there. But we'll just have to see. I don't know. I don't know. I would love for him to prove me wrong, but until I see otherwise, it's a no go for me for quarterbacks coming out of the Tar Heel school. All right, so who we got next? We got another Heisman winner, this year's Heisman winner, who I think may sneakily be QB2, and that's Jayden Daniels at LSU. What do you think?
Jayden Daniels is a crazy these last 2 years is just a crazy story. He started off at Arizona State. He had a crazy what's it called freshman year. I think sophomore year too, or no, he had a really crazy soft freshman year, and then sophomore year he kind of just cratered basically, and just looked like he was gonna go into the bust category, like he was gonna never do anything. And then he transferred to LSU, and then he had a decent year, his first year there, and then he just took off this year. It's crazy. He's exceeded what he did as a freshman, and he even finally put some bulk on his frame, because he was like 185, 190 for like 4 years. But this year he finally got over 200 pounds. But yeah, he was really good this year. I mean, he was able to run the ball too, and like he ran for like I think over 1,000 yards this year. It's just, I mean, he definitely deserves the Heisman. And there's not even really that much of a stigma on the Heisman anymore. It used to be a stigma where, like, if a quarterback won the Heisman, he was going to be a bust in the NFL. But yeah, he really just took off this year. It was crazy.
With Jayden, I don't see a lot of bad habits. And probably if you could call it a bad habit, it's just, when the play breaks down, he's going to take off. I saw a couple times, especially in the Alabama game, he hung in there a little bit. But again, it's Alabama. They're going to have a good defense. You're going to have, in the NFL, you're going to have 3 seconds. You got to get the ball out. So he could extend the play, and then, probably at that 3.5, 4.5 second, he was out of there. For chunk games, he didn't take too many sacks. If he took a sack, it was probably because it was a very, very bad blocking scheme or just a completely blown assignment on a blitz. But that'll get better. I mean, accuracy was pretty good. He has a plus arm. You're right. He did put on some bulk. I thought he was a wide receiver when I first saw him. But honestly, I think there's a lot to like there with Jayden. I think he's got some definite room to grow. So it really just depends on where he ends up. It's kind of weird, is this top 5 quarterback group. We've got, top 5, projections. We've got mid-round projections. We got some of these guys going day 2. I think Jayden, depending on, again, the domino effect of Caleb Williams is probably, somewhere in the top 10.
Yeah, definitely.
If you got the Raiders talking of trading up, I don't know if they're going to get all the way to number 1. And once they give away, I really didn't want to see Devontae Adams in a Bears uniform. But yeah, that I think Jayden Daniels would be a nice, for lack of better words, a nice consolation prize to Caleb Williams or Drake Maye, if that's your flavor of the week. But I think he might be the better out of everybody so far. Honestly, he plays within himself to me. He doesn't seem like he goes outside and tries to like, oh, I'm gonna just win this rep. I'm gonna win this down. I'm gonna win this game. I mean, granted, he did have Malik Neighbors, and right. LSU could be in the running for wide receiver with Ohio State. So he has some weapons, but I didn't see him try to do too much when he was out there.
Yeah, I feel of the top 3 guys, he kind of has the highest floor of them. Even though, like I said, I feel like Maye has a higher floor than Williams, I'd say Daniels has even a higher floor. You're getting probably at least a top 15, top 20 starter out of him at the very least. But yeah, like you said, it's just being more in the NFL offenses and learning to just go through your progressions and not taking off too much. Because that if you take off too much and you're running too much, you're going to get, especially even though he did, like we said, put on the bulk, he's still a small guy, not that big of a guy. and you're getting hit by those NFL linebackers and DBs. You're gonna really get beat up and have injuries and stuff. So he's just got to be more careful with taking off and learn to slide. And because he took a pretty nasty hit earlier this year, he was fine afterwards, but still, it was a pretty nasty hit. It was like from a DB, I think it was. So it's just something he's got to work on.
You know how I think he a little bit reminds me of?
What's that?
Jordan Love.
Frame-wise, at least a little bit, yeah. He's probably more athletic, faster-wise.
Yeah, a little bit more athletic.
Yeah, a little faster stream line speed and stuff like that. But yeah, I could see it.
But Jordan I think he kind of hides his athleticism a little bit. I don't think he wants people to know, how quick or fast he is. He from the get-go, stayed in the pocket. He'll stretch it out a little bit. I don't think he likes to let people know that he's got some wheels to him. I think he ran 4.71 in the 40 way back when. Jayden will probably run about 4.65. But I think Jordan tries to hide that he's as fast as he is. But Jayden, off rip that if you leave him some open field, he's going to take off, which will pay him dividends his rookie year if he does it smartly. But I definitely see him as a Pro Bowl caliber prospect as long as he goes to the right team and right support.
Right, definitely.
So next we got second runner-up in the national championship from Washington, Michael Penix Jr. And Michael really turned his career around. He was at Indiana. He put the whole team on his back, and had 2 ACLs that cost him?
2 ACLs and both shoulders. So he's had his body that's gonna be the biggest question for him, period. Like number one is those medicals. And you just got to worry about if these get flagged to the combine. Like I said, he had an issue with the surgery on the throwing shoulder and his non-throwing shoulder. The throwing shoulder is going to be a big one. Of course, the knees as well. It's just, but these last 2 years he stayed healthy. He didn't have any injuries. But the biggest, like I said, number one, mark in red, whatever you want to call it, type thing for his questions about him, I should say, coming in is going to be his medicals.
He's literally a cyborg at this point. And we've learned over the course of the years, when it comes to injuries, yes, it's about the injury, but it's also about who did the surgery. And granted, he was in the Big Ten with Indiana, but I don't know if Indiana had the same resources as Washington in the Pac-12. So it'll all depend on that medical at the combine. He went to the Senior Bowl but didn't play. He was missing targets left and right, and that comes with chemistry. But that's what happens in the NFL. You're going to go to a brand new team. You're likely not going to be a Joe Burrow and Chase connection where we played 5 years straight. We're right. Good. You're going to go to a new team, totally new guys you've never seen play before with, and that's going to be an adjustment. But truthfully, he's probably got the strongest arm in the class and probably the best deep ball accuracy in the class. So, sure. The shoulder injuries probably are the least of your concern, hopefully. And even for the athleticism that he does have, I really consider him a pocket passer. But, he will, he has some escapability. He will get out and punish you if you miss on the blitz. We saw that, a couple times in the national championship. We've seen that in the Pac-12 championship. We've seen that multiple times in his playing career that, he does have some escapability to him, but he stays true in the pocket and then he finds his target on the field. I like that he can make all the NFL throws. Next to Jayden, I think Penix is probably your best pure quarterback in this class, in my opinion. And maybe possibly, Senior Bowl showing aside, he may be the most ready to go.
Maybe. But the thing after the only other questions after the injury stuff is going to be his age. He's 24. I think he's going to turn 25 in his rookie year. So there's going to be a question of how much upside he has left in him. And then he just had some weird accuracy things with short and intermediate passes. That needs to be worked on and fixed. But other than those things, yeah, he's probably the closest to being pro ready, start as a rookie type of situation.
I don't get too down on a prospect's age. I mean, especially when we're talking about quarterbacks. I mean, I like Penix at Indiana. I would have said maybe with what you had at Indiana, really taking the medical into account, because that's when it happened. He probably, if he came out in Indiana, at best, he probably would have gone in the 5th round. But to go to Washington and rehab himself the way he has, and now we're talking first round considerations. I mean, that's a guy that bet on himself and said, no, like, I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of. And there's something to like about that, because that's going to be the quarterback you want when the team is, maybe not performing like they should on the field. Maybe it's starting to slide. You need a guy who's been through some adversity, on and off the field, who can get you through. And that's something you can't necessarily teach. That's not something, a coach can just give to you, in training camp or what have you. That's something you just have to have through life. And I think that adds to his value as a quarterback. So, I mean, age, sure. I mean, we got Tom Brady played to 42? Aaron's talking about playing into his 40s. I don't know if that's still true after this past season, but that's what he wants to do. I mean, hey, a guy coming in at 25, if you can give me 15 years? I mean, I don't really see him playing 15. I don't think you're going to see any of these quarterbacks playing 15 years, but I mean, 35, 37, 38, 12, 13 years. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, drafting a quarterback especially in the first round, you just want to give you a Super Bowl. Say what you want. We took Aaron in the first round. He got a Super Bowl. We hoped for more. We should have got more, but that's another story. Right. But and that's the same with Jordan. We were 2 games away essentially. So if Penix gets his team, whoever he ends up with, to the Super Bowl, then hey, 24, 34. You got your investment.
Yeah, definitely.
So after Penix, we got the guy that beat him, who, in my opinion, might be the safest pick in this quarterback class, and that's JJ McCarthy out of Michigan.
Actually, I don't know if I agree with that, but I mean, that's fine if you want, if that's your opinion on it. But like I said, I never said this before. With McCarthy, my thing is, like, they never asked him to throw the ball a lot. They didn't ask him to go through a lot of progressions. Like, they didn't really ask him to do a lot. And there's some bad throws on film. So, I mean, the potential's there, obviously, of course. It's just he needs time. I think he probably needs a quote-unquote redshirt year just to sit behind a vet and just learn. But yeah, the potential's there for him to be top 2, top 3 quarterbacks in this class if he hits.
Yeah, I mean, when you have 2,000-yard rushers, you're not going to get a lot of work. But what he was asked to do, he did pretty well. He's a little bit smaller on this, probably smaller than Jayden, but he's still an athlete. I don't know what he's going to run. I think he'll probably be in the 4.7s. He might surprise us and get in the 4.6s. Mm-hmm. But I mean, all these quarterbacks have had bad throws. He has pro concepts, thankfully, to the Harbaugh tree. So he knows RPO. He knows play action. He knows all that good stuff that we're going to see at the next level. Arm talent isn't an issue. I don't think accuracy is an issue too much. I don't kind of like Jayden Daniels, doesn't have necessarily bad habits per se. It's like you said, a little bit of inexperience, but that comes with time. That comes with reps. Sometimes, you don't need the high end quarterback to get you to the game. I mean, look at all the flack Brock Purdy's caught. He got CMC, and it's been a dream matchup. And maybe that's what you need. Maybe you need a a JJ McCarthy, who I think tools wise is probably better than Brock Purdy, and you get him with a top flight running game, and then that's all you need. I mean, and Michigan still had great receivers. We're going to get to them in a little bit down the stretch with Roman Wilson and all those guys, but you don't have to have a 5,000, well, maybe not 5,000, but you don't have to have a 4,000, 5,000 yard passer to get you to the promised land.
Right.
I think he's a smart guy. I mean, he's a Michigan man. He has to be a smart guy. He has pro system experience. I'm sure Harbaugh prepped him to be a pro caliber quarterback. Just give him the reps. It may only take training camp for him to really shine. It may take 1 year, but I definitely see him as a starting quarterback. And the high end may not be there. It may not ever materialize, but sometimes you just need a guy who's going to follow the script, a guy who's going to make the right throw, who's going to go through the progressions, not going to, do anything silly. I don't think, bad throws, yes, those will happen even to the best of them, but I don't see any issue with decision making. It's okay. Like we saw, with Penix, that horrible, well, it was a great throw. Well, depending on how you look at it, that wide open throw to Rome, and we're like, how do you miss that? But it wasn't it was the best decision. And I don't see JJ McCarthy making any bad decisions. Maybe he might miss a receiver, maybe it's underthrown, maybe it's overthrown, but I don't think you see anywhere on his tape where it's like, oh, he just made a bonehead decision. So for me, that's why he's the safest prospect. He's not gonna lose the game in this day and age where we start rookies right out the gate. I don't think JJ McCarthy would be the reason you lost the game. He might be the reason that you didn't blow him out or the game was close, but I don't think he's just gonna be like, he's not gonna be Mr. 3 interceptions, and that's the reason why you guys got blown out.
Yeah, probably not gonna throw like 5 touchdowns in the game either, but yeah,
you only need 2. And then the running backs can get the other 2, and there you go. You gotta win.
Yeah, I mean, if you put him in the right system, he'll be fine. It's just like I said, he still needs some time. Of course, like I said, he needs to add definitely some bulk onto that frame because the NFL's going to break him if he doesn't. But yeah, he can if in the right system, he'd be okay, I think.
Now, if we want to talk about a gamble, that's our next guy in Bo Nix out of Oregon, formerly of Auburn. So, what did you see from Bo Nix this year?
Nix is almost, I mean, not exactly the same, obviously, but somewhat of a similar situation to Jayden Daniels, in that when he was at Auburn, he was just, he looked promising his freshman year, and then his sophomore year, junior year, he just did not look good. He was bad. He looked like he was rushing through everything. He was seeing ghosts as far as pass rushers, throwing the ball just all over the place, just looked bad, just looked like really bad. And then he came to Oregon, and then, of course, remade himself to an extent these last 2 years. But just the only thing you get concerned with him is him playing in that Oregon offense. They don't ask him to do a lot. They don't ask him to go through a lot of progressions or do a lot of reads. And then even the kind of almost scary thing is if you look at his, I think they call it the spray chart or whatever it is, most of his passes are within like 10 yards. Like I think it's like 70, something like that percent of it. So it's like, that's what you got to worry about is can he play in an NFL offense or be successful in an NFL offense, I should say. And can he do it in an NFL offense? Or is he just one of those guys that's like kind of a quote unquote robot where you need to tell him exactly where to go, where to throw, and don't make him throw anything too deep and whatnot. And just like he's not a system. Hopefully he's not a system quarterback is kind of what I'm saying.
I think he is a system quarterback. Like you said, at Auburn, I think Auburn, he was a rambling, gambling man. And then he went to Oregon. They're like, no, this is your read. Yeah. You're going to throw it to this guy.
Yeah.
And that worked for him. And but we saw at the Senior Bowl, it was, well, honestly, all these all-star games, the quarterback play was up and down. We're going to get to the one guy who actually maybe shined a little bit. But he was missing. He was errant. he kind of defaulted to some rollouts here and there, and that might be what we have to look at. That might be more to come in the pro game. I don't know with Bo. I really don't know with Bo.
He's a
I
question mark.
think if you're smart, you don't take him in the first. I would hope you don't take it to him the first.
I don't think any team will.
I mean, I'd love for the Vikings to take him in the first, but I don't know if you take Bo in the first. I don't even know if you take him quite in the second. Bo is probably the start of the drop off, but beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But somebody might say, oh, Heisman runner up, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll take him here. But I don't think Bo is. There's a little bit of buyer beware. I don't know if he translates his game translates to the next level, other than you keep it real simple. You're like, hey, you throw it to A or you throw it to B. If A and B aren't open, then throw it away. See if you can run for 2 or 3 yards and call it a day. I just don't know about Bo.
Yeah, I think like I said, that's pretty much what I said. That's the same thing. Yeah, it's just, I mean, like, obviously if you're drafting him, you're hoping that there's more to his game and stuff like that. But just from what I've seen, I don't know about that. I'm kind of iffy about that. But I mean, at the very least, he has kind of a decent floor in that even if he doesn't really develop much, or he is what he is, at the very least, you probably got an okay backup quarterback who can, like kind of like what you said, go into the game for the starter gets injured, whatever. And you just like, okay, just here's your reads, throw it to this guy or throw it to that guy. If there's nothing there, throw it away. Just get us to the end of the game, get us to into the red zone, and we'll just get the ball into our playmakers' hands and let them do the work, type of situation. At the very least, he'll be like, at least, like I said, a decent, you hope a decent backup. But if not, I mean, again, like I said, there's still potential there if he can show that he can play an NFL offense. And of course, like I said, like you said, and I said, we have questions if he can do that, but that's what he's going to need to show probably at the combine and then like in interviews.
Yeah, he's gonna have to be able to go through those concepts. A lot of times that really can make or break a quarterback. Coaches show you some concepts, see if you can talk through it, see if you can break it down. I don't know if Bo's done that since his Auburn days, if he did it back then. So it's questionable. So we'll see. But moving forward, there was one quarterback who did shine throughout the offseason process, and that was Spencer Rattler out of South Carolina. He started out at Oklahoma. He started out hot at Oklahoma, honestly. But I think that was when Oklahoma was just stacked. And then they had like a little bit of lull with recruiting when Lincoln Riley, I think, was maybe getting ready to pack his bags, and Caleb Williams showed out. And that was just it. But he remade himself at South Carolina. And going back to Penix, that humbling of yourself can sometimes pay off dividends. He was perfect at the Senior Bowl. I mean, he's only in there for one drive, but that deep shot in the corner of the end zone, I was like, oh, he's back. I saw that at Oklahoma. I haven't seen it since Oklahoma, but he's back. So we'll see. I like Rattler as a guy you sit and develop. I don't know how much more development he needs. It seems like all these quarterbacks are old. Everybody's like pushing 30.
With NLI,
they're ready for retirement in 5 years. But I think he remade himself just like Penix. Not necessarily the high-end arm talent as Penix, but I think he's a guy who's going to play within himself. He's got some leadership. He's got some moxie to him. He may be the guy that, if you sit him for a year, maybe comes out and is a Pro Bowl talent the next year.
Yeah, I mean, another guy that's kind of similar situation to Nix and Jayden Daniels, where he was hot really quick, and then he kind of just seemed to kind of fall apart, and then he transferred to South Carolina. But of course, the only issue was, he kind of remade himself and improved himself, stuff like that. But South Carolina is not like, at least in the offense, is just not, was a mess. Like the offensive line did not hold up well. He didn't have a lot of weapons to throw to. I mean, he had Juice Wells, but Juice Wells got injured this year. But then Xavier Legette came up kind of this year. But outside of those couple guys, there wasn't much around him, and like I said, the offensive line wasn't that good. And of course there was some well-known, if you can Google and look into it, you can try to. It's kind of hard to find, but you can find it. Some well-known documented off the field issues with him coming out of high school, and they kind of followed him to Oklahoma. But he seems, once he transferred and stuff, it kind of humbled himself. He kind of, you've heard that people from South Carolina said he was a good guy, off the field, and he had no issues. Oklahoma, there was, drug issues and alcohol and what do you call it? Putting in the work in the offseason in the playbook and all that type of questions. But I guess, like I said, once he got to South Carolina, he kind of fixed that stuff. But of course, the issue is just that offense that he played at South Carolina. Like I said, because the offensive line sucked, didn't have much talent around him. So that's the thing you got to worry. You don't know. The talent's there, obviously, the physical talent. He has a cannon for an arm. Even though he's not a huge guy, he's not much of an athlete or a mover, but he plays in the pocket. He can move around the pocket, stuff like that. If you need 2, 3, 4 yards for first down, he can get you that, but not much more. But yeah, like you said, he's a guy that's going to need to probably sit for a year and just continue to develop and continue to mature himself and just get better at the mental part of the game and the off the field part.
I think the off the field is. I'm not really concerned about the off the field too much. I think what people forget is these guys are still in many ways just kids. If we probably, if we go back and look at our own lives, we probably had some extracurricular activities that we probably not want to share with our parents. Unfortunately for these guys, the spotlight's on them, especially when you're talking about the quarterback, the guy who's supposed to be the leader of the team, not necessarily giving Rattler a pass by any means, but in the day, they're young men trying to, navigate their way through life. And, sometimes you have those rock bottom moments. And to his credit with South Carolina, he had nothing. South Carolina known for defensive prospects. That's probably all he did have. He had a defense to keep him in the game to where, he can engineer some magic when he got back out there on the field. And I think that was, even to his credit, what made him more impressive at the Senior Bowl. He had some NFL talent, era-esque talent, and then he was able to look better, So I think that'll endear him a little bit more to scouts. You got a guy who went to having everything at Oklahoma, fell off, went to South Carolina, had nothing, and was still able to put up some good numbers in production in a tougher league. I don't care what you say. The SEC is always going to be better than the Big 12.
Oh, yeah.
So, to go up against better defenses, against Florida, against Bama, against LSU, the Georgias of the world, and look like pretty damn good. I think that should endear him more to scouts. If you look at the tape and you look at, the Senior Bowl tape, I'm thinking first round, but he may be a guy that sneaks into the second round because you look at what's left over, and that's kind of where I think Rattler will be is, in the quarterback position, we talk about guys getting overdrafted. Because next year's class is not good. You've got Shedeur Sanders and Quinn Ewers, and that's it. So some of these guys, as we get to the Bo Nixes, the Spencer Rattlers, and going further down the line, some of these guys seem to be like, look, either we take this guy or whatever we got on this roster, that's what's going to be on this roster for 2025. We're thinking 2026. So I think Spencer Rattler may be a strong second round candidate, depending on where these other guys go. I think, once we get past Penix and probably McCarthy, whatever team is left empty-handed, GMs are going to start picking up the phone, and Rattler will probably be one of the guys they're thinking about in the second round, or possibly, early third, depending on, position runs at other parts of the draft.
All right.
So we have another quarterback in the Senior Bowl, also from the SEC, Joe Milton. And I had a lot of expectations for Joe. when he went to the Senior Bowl. But I seem to be more of the same that I saw him in Tennessee. He probably might have the hardest ball in the class, but there's no touch. There's no finesse.
Nope. Not
and I think about the Favre days. When Favre let that thing go, you might break a finger. You literally might break a finger. I think if you go back to the old days, some people told them they did break their fingers, but you just didn't cry about it to anybody. You just
If you look at your Freeman's fingers, they're all messed up.
Yeah. So, but you can't do that in today's NFL. You can't be breaking your receivers' fingers, and then obviously, if you miss, you better hope there's not a defender that's maybe about 5 yards deeper that he can catch that ball, because that's exactly what's going to happen. Yeah, he just has a 200-mile-per-hour fastball, and then there's nothing else. And then he is an athlete. He can get out there and run, but I would not say he is extremely fast. He's got some wheels, but I wouldn't say I don't think he's going to be out there running 4.5 or anything like that. So in the faster NFL, even at the Senior Bowl, I think he broke maybe 1, maybe 2 runs. Maybe they weren't huge runs. They were like 4 or 5 yards, something like that. But in the faster NFL, you're going to get caught. Defense. There are defensive tackles out there that run 4.7. There are linebackers that, depending on and edge rushers, may run even 4.4 themselves. I mean, look at Rashawn Gary. Why is a man that's almost 280 pounds running that fast? So, and bigger. So, I don't know if Milton can depend on that athleticism. I mean, any of these quarterbacks really, because guys will be there well before you expect them to be. And then if you're throwing these hard balls without any touch and precision, eventually one's going to sail. It's going to lose enough heat that another defender is able to catch it, and then they're going to be going the other way. So how do you feel?
Kind of same thing. I mean, he's got a cannon for an arm. He's got probably the strongest arm in the class, but it's just like you said, there's just no touch. Everything's a fastball. Like you saw the Senior Bowl. If you saw the Senior Bowl practice, there's a scoreboard where they showed the miles per hour on the balls. He was all the top ones because that's what he is. Everything's just a rocket ball. Yeah, and he's a huge dude. He's like tight end size. He's like 6. He was like 6'5", 240 or something like that. 6'5", 236. But and he's older too. He's like 24. He's a 6-year guy. But he just never learned to touch. So that's why I'm just like, I don't know. Probably day 3. Well, yeah, probably he's a day 3 pick for sure. But I mean, what do you do with him? I don't know. Like, you have him as stash him on the practice squad, maybe, or is your backup and just hopefully cross your fingers he can learn some touch. But yeah, he's already at this age, 6-year guy, 24 years old. I don't know if that's going to happen, but or unless I don't know. I just don't know what you do with him.
I'm thinking, I don't know if he goes day 3. Maybe, or put it this way, I couldn't see him going past the 4th round. I could be wrong. I just think in this class, like I said, I think guys are going to get overdrafted because of the 2025 class, unless somebody, there's always people that come out of nowhere, like where did this guy come from? And I think, Milton is kind of like the beginning of the back end of the class. So I don't know if I think maybe comp pick time, maybe like those round 3 pick 44, type where, areas where, teams are like, okay, what's on the board? What's here? We need a quarterback. We need a guy to develop. Our guys getting older, or maybe, we're not thinking about a contract renewal. Maybe we give him some time to develop. Maybe we can, honestly, if they can get the fastball to be like a change up, there might be something there, and you said he's 6'5", 236. He's probably going to put on another 5 pounds in the NFL from offseason training. Depending on how he runs, and I hate this. I really hate this in general. I don't care who the prospect is, but when they ask quarterbacks to change a position. I mean, at 6'5" and possibly 240, I mean, that is an NFL tight end. So if he has any hands, that could be something that we're talking about. But I hope not, because I hate that. Ever since they asked Lamar Jackson to be a running back or wide receiver, even before that, I was like, no. Like if a guy says he's a quarterback, guy says he's a quarterback. But if he himself just doesn't show any improvement there, and if it's his choice, of like, you know what, maybe I'll go have to be a tight end or maybe a receiver or whatever the case may be, his choice. But I hope scouts don't come like, hey, we'd like to draft you, in the 4th round, but as a tight end, like, no, let Joe Milton decide for himself what his career arc is going to be. If he decides to take his talents to the UFL or the CFL, as a quarterback, that's great too. But yeah, he just needs to come down off of the fastball, and there might be more to like there. Not a very complicated scheme at Tennessee at all, and that's probably going to be another thing he's going to have to get over the hump with. But I'm not opposed to him going day 3. I just don't know with this class. It really depends, honestly. That top tier group, if they go out really early, Joe Milton might hear his name called the back of the 3rd round. If like Knicks and Rattler, they hang out there a little bit, then yeah, I could definitely see maybe like 5th round. So Joe Milton's buddy, I'll say buddy, but in the Senior Bowl, Sam Hartman, he's another guy kind of trending in that back end of the 3rd or early day 3. Another older guy. It's the geriatric quarterback class. What do you think?
It's just the NLI, man. It's the fact that the impact NLI is having on college football. Guys are staying for 5-6 years. But as far as Hartman, former Wake Forest dude, transferred to Notre Dame for this 1 year. He's like 6'1", 210. He's not very big, not very athletic. He's probably gonna run like the 4.9 area. And his arm is probably average, maybe slightly below average. I don't see much upside or potential with him. I think he is what he is. Maybe he bounces around on some practice squads for a couple of years. Maybe he makes it as a backup quarterback for a couple of years, type of thing. But I just don't see much upside with him as far as the NFL. I think honestly, his biggest upside probably as it will be as like a coach or something like that.
Yeah, when I got the news that Sam Hartman was going to Notre Dame, I was like, this is the best you could do. But I mean, I don't know how Notre Dame is in the NLI game. I don't know. Honestly, I don't hear anything about Notre Dame in the NIL game. Are they able to have sponsors? I don't, I mean, it's a religious.
Every school does. So
yeah, I know they have boosters. I know they have boosters. Of course, they have boosters. They have their little media thing going on that they don't want to give up for the Big Ten. But you don't hear about it. So I was maybe I'm assuming NLI affects everything. I mean, NLI just retired Nick Saban. So
yeah, basically. And poor push Chip Kelly to the NFL too.
yeah. So I don't think I don't really know, but Hartman made it to Notre Dame, and he did what he did. He did what he did.
Yep.
So he kind of struggled in the Senior Bowl, or kind of did struggle in the Senior Bowl. Because QB play in general just struggled. So it wasn't anything to see him kind of struggle in the Senior Bowl himself. So yeah, I think day three. We know he's not a plus athlete. He struggled with accuracy himself. I've seen him make a couple plays with his arm, not a lot. So yeah, it's backup QB, probably backup QB, maybe a guy who kind of hangs around the league a while, and maybe a future offensive coordinator.
Yeah, quarterback coach, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, QB coach.
Yeah.
So Now there is one guy, unfortunately, he was in the Senior Bowl. He's in the Shrine Bowl, but he seemed to be a man among boys out there, and that's Talia Tagovailoa. How'd you think of the tape?
He has some similarities to his brother, but he's even smaller. That's the thing kind of worries you. He measured in at 5'10". His build is fine. He was 200 pounds, but at 5'10", that's you worry about that. Most guys under 6 foot, just the guys. It's what's the word for it? It's the exception to the rule type of thing. The guys that make it in the NFL that are that short. You got your Doug Flutys, and that's basically it. But yeah, I mean, he's a decent athlete. He can run a little bit, but just like he was exciting as a college quarterback because he would make some things happen. He'd run around, off script and stuff like that. But just the arm strength is kind of meh to me. His ability to read a defense was kind of meh. I don't know where he makes it in the NFL. Like I said, just because that size thing is just he's not. He doesn't have. When you're that small, you need to have some sort of quote unquote superpower, like to have a really strong arm or have really amazing accuracy, like Drew Brees or something like that. But nothing about him really stands out. So I just don't know if he's going to make it long term. He'll get a shot for sure. He'll probably get drafted on day 3. But I think kind of similar to Hartman, maybe he'll bounce around some practice squads, maybe back up for a few years, and then just goes off to play the CFL, or I think that's where he could excel. It's like CFL or one of the smaller leagues.
I see Talia as a definite upgrade to Hartman. I think he's got a better arm. He's obviously more athletic. Right. Granted, he wasn't Alabama long. He wasn't Alabama. He got beat out by Bryce. Bryce and Mac. I don't know. I don't really know how he got beat out by Mac. I think that was one of those saving things. I don't.
Probably just wasn't ready. I guess
maybe just wasn't ready, but yeah, I don't see how he got beat up by Mac. Bryce Young, I can see. Bryce Young is about the same size, honestly.
6 foot, I think. But yeah.
So, but I mean, he's got some athleticism. He is a smaller version of his brother. He may get drafted by name alone. But when I saw him at the Shrine Bowl, granted, I had watched him at Maryland a couple of games already. I mean, still, I said, am I right about him? 11,000 yards is 11,000 yards, in the Big Ten. Like, none of those yards were at Alabama. Those are all going up against Ohio State, going up against Michigan, Penn State, Iowa, yada, yada, yada. Like 11,000 yards in the Big Ten is 11,000 yards. So I'm a big penchant for, if you can produce in the premier leagues, which as of right now are the SEC and the Big Ten, you've earned your shot. I mean, outside of him testing horribly, which I don't see him testing horribly, he's a smaller version of his brother. He's not going to be as big. He may not be as fast, but you're going to see some similarities there. I think you just have to give that guy a shot. I think you really just have to give him a shot. Probably, I think at the upper reaches of day 3, again, maybe like Joe Milton, maybe, again, off of the name, off of the production, maybe he comes out around comp pick time. Maybe he does, but I don't see him surviving the 4th round. Between him and then the rest of the guys, at the back end of this quarterback class, he definitely stands out. I mean, with the experience, 40 plus starts at the college level, that's gotta mean something to some of these quarterback coaches and offensive coordinators. Like, okay, like I don't have to worry about this guy getting scared or feeling like the moment is too big for him. He's gonna feel, comfortable, behind center. So we'll see. I really hope he stays in the league a little while. I really hope he finds some success. I mean, if Kyler Murray can find success, and do we really even know how tall Kyler Murray is? I swear, I think he goes from 5'8" to 5'10" on a weekly basis.
Yeah, he measured in, I think, 5'10" or something like that.
So look, if Kyler Murray can get back there and get knocked around, then Tagovailoa can do the same thing. It's just that Kyler played at Oklahoma. He won the Heisman. which I don't think he should have won it. But Tagovailoa, I think he deserves his shot as well. So we'll see. We'll see. So after Tagovailoa, we have another guy who, although unfortunately he was invited to the Shrine Bowl, but he didn't get to play, and that was Florida State quarterback Jayden Travis. Had a great season with Florida State, who got snuffed out of the college football playoff. But what do you think about
him? Similar to Tagovailoa, just like he's a small dude. I mean, he's a little bit bigger, but still a small dude. He's a really good athlete. He's got a decent arm, but just like he plays out of structure a lot. He's running around a lot, trying to create stuff. His arm, like I said, his arm's okay, but like I said, he's a good athlete. The one thing that's kind of interesting is he has small hands, under 9-inch hands, which a lot of NFL teams will kind of get concerned about that if your hands are that small. But yeah, he's like 6 foot 212, like just a kind of a smaller dude. But again, like I said, he did a lot of stuff, created a lot of stuff, running around and throwing up to Keon Coleman and Wilson and stuff like that. And he actually had a pretty stacked offense, actually, now I'm thinking about it. But yeah, I just don't know about his NFL upside. Again, another day 3 guy. Of course, an injury hurt him too, which is unfortunate, and he wasn't able to play in that bowl game. But yeah, like I said, I don't know how much upside he really has, an NFL player, unless he can develop and learn to play more in structure. But if so, then he's probably a practice squad guy, or a guy that's your backup. You take as a backup to a veteran and let him sit for a couple of years and see if maybe you can develop him.
I think I have Jayden listed as 6'1". I don't know if they measured him at the Shrine Bowl. I don't know if he actually showed at the Shrine Bowl. I'm not sure, but I think I have him listed at 6'1". So he's got the size, or at least the height rather. I think some of that creativity is kind of a strength to him. And yeah, he doesn't have the strongest arm, but it's an NFL arm. I think a lot of times we ooh and ah about he can throw 90 yards, but how many times in an NFL game are you going to throw 90 yards? I mean, I remember when I was a kid and we watched Michael Vick literally throw from the back of one end zone to the other end zone, but I don't think we ever saw it in an actual live NFL game. So look, if you can throw a strong 60, which I think is probably about Tagovailoa's range, and I think Jayden might be maybe 65 yards. I really think that's all you need. I mean, we can get stuck in our ways about, he can't throw 75 yards, but if it's not, if you did your job throughout the game, you don't have to throw 75-yard bombs so you can try to win the game. So I mean, yes, we got the Aaron Rodgers throw where he almost hit the jumbotron and got you Richard Rodgers. But I think his arm is sufficient. Yes, staying in the pocket a little bit more will help his value. But I mean, it's the college game. Athletes are going to be athletes. They're going to take, if you give them that little bit of room, they're going to take it. Jayden Travis did that, and en route to an undefeated season. I really wish he had not gotten hurt, because I think had he snuck in, or had Florida State snuck in, I don't know. It's kind of, really don't know. I mean, Michigan may not even be national champions if Florida State snuck in.
Right.
Who's to say?
Right.
So I really hate that he got hurt, because maybe had he gotten, into the college football playoff, we may be talking about a guy who's maybe now in the second or third round. And that's going to be where the scouts really make their money, where they see what this guy did before the injury and then going into last year. He was a 3-star guy at Louisville, and, no real fanfare, and left Louisville. And I think that's what kind of says a lot about him, because I mean, Florida State is considered a more premier program than Louisville. I mean, after Lamar left Louisville, that was it. I mean, they had Malik Cunningham, but Malik wasn't Lamar. So the fact that you left one program, went to a higher echelon program, got the starting job, I think that says something about a guy. So we'll see. Fifth round with the injury. If he can go with the combine, maybe fourth. So we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. So who do we have next? We have Michael Pratt out of Tulane. I'm mixed on him. What do you think?
I like him a lot, actually. He's one of my guys. I got stuck on him because I was watching a bunch of Tulane guys last year and to an extent this year too, like watching Ty Spears and stuff like that. Like he really, how do I say it? He's one of those guys, again, that he's kind of hate using this term, but he's kind of one of those guys that's a high floor. I mean, he still has some growth potential, but not like a super high ceiling type of thing. His arm is probably average for the NFL, but his ball placement, his accuracy, ability to read defense is really high level. It's just, like I said, the arm is kind of average. There's still some development, obviously, that needs to be done there. But I like him a lot. You know, you see his leadership skills, a lot of stuff you like about him that I feel at the very least, again, another guy that should be at the very least a good backup in the NFL. I think the potential's there for him to be maybe top 15, 20 quarterback in the NFL if he hits, to his full potential. But yeah, like I said, I like because he's a competitor. You see him out there. I remember, a bunch of games last year, like especially like that bowl game against USC. Just his drive, his being a competitor, his accuracy. Of course, USC's defense was bad last 2022 and this past year, but still, he tore them up. And that's still a Pac-12 conference, and he's coming from the AAC, which is a group of 5 conference. So, and he's playing with Ty Spears was the only real NFL. Well, yeah, only real NFL player he was playing with at the time. Of course, our slot receiver, he's going to go in the NFL this year, but he wasn't. He was a smaller role in the offense. But anyway, yeah, like I said, I think I like his drive, his leadership skills, and all that type of stuff.
I really got to see him test. I think that's where I'm at. I got to see where he tests. He kind of puts me into last class like a Clayton Tune kind of guy, or like maybe like a Tanner McKee. I think what I saw is he seems like he has a good understanding of pro concepts.
Yep.
And I'll go with you. I don't know if I'll say high floor, maybe stable floor. I just didn't see enough of him. It's hard to see all of Tulane's tape. They, being in their conference, they don't get a lot of fanfare. I really wanted to see him against, upper echelon competition, which I focused on the game against USC with Caleb Williams. And obviously did enough to win that game. So there's something, there's something, but I just don't know how much of it is. I think really the combine, see him in tests, see him in drills, another look at a pro day, maybe might give him a little bit more boost. But yeah, I see him kind of like, he's a prospect you have to kind of fall in love with. Like, and going back into last year's class, like, I think Tanner McKee went like really high, well, relatively speaking. But so, he might be a guy that, kind of comes off the board in a random, day 3 area where you're like, oh, I forgot he was even still on the board, and then, like I said, back up 2-3 years, and then, we'll see from there.
Yep.
So next to him, we have Carter Bradley, who started off at Toledo, but bet on himself and went to Southern Alabama. So I didn't like the accuracy. I think the arm strength might be there, but I can just see it on display. Understands how an offense goes, but I'm not too big on Carter. What do you think?
I kind of like. I mean, he's an interesting player. He's the son of Gus Bradley, the coach, the NFL coach. He's another 6-year guy, but he only was a starter, a 2-year starter But he's got good size, 6'3", 218. Not much of an athlete. Probably a little bit better of an athlete than Sam Hartman is, but still not much of an athlete. And at Senior Bowl practices, he had a few throws where you're like, oh, okay, like I can see the NFL arm there. But again, another guy that probably needs some development, at least in an NFL offense, learning that because playing South Alabama in that small conference. But he had a better year last year in 2022. This year his numbers were down a bit, but I think there's the potential is there. It's not necessarily high potential, but there's potential there that he could potentially be something. They didn't throw the ball super lot at South Alabama, but I like his, at least he's got some potential.
Yeah, when you get to the lower echelons of the FBS, sometimes you may have a decent quarterback, but you just don't have the athletes where you can throw to them. The offensive line doesn't hold up. And you just got those short passes. You're just trying to find 3 or 4 yards to move the chains. So maybe combine. If he receives an invite, or pro day, we'll see more from him. I imagine if he got to the Senior Bowl, he should get a combine invite, and maybe that'll give him a little bit more boost in the standings. We'll have to see.
Yep.
So after Carter, we've got Devin Leary, who looked really good in practice and drills at the Shrine Bowl. He had a couple plays, but just ultimately at the Shrine Bowl in general. After Tagovailoa, it was kind of like, can anybody complete a pass?
Right. Yeah, I mean, he's another transfer guy. Played at Kentucky this past year. Before that was at North Carolina State for like 4 years. Another 6-year guy. So he's obviously older. He's 24. He'll be 25 this September. He's a very confident player. You can see, but he's never really had any big games really. Like he was just kind of like the field general type of thing, like the caretaker type quarterback. Decent numbers this year, 23 touchdowns, but his completion percentage wasn't very good. He had like 56 completion percentage this year. There was some young talent in Kentucky. They have 2 receivers, both sophomores. Should be dudes we should be looking at probably next year. But and he had Ray Davis in the backfield and stuff like that. But again, another kind of older guy. Has some maybe backup quarterback type potential. We'll see.
Yeah, he had the offense. I think really it was just him. Ray Davis was coming out. Good wide receiver core. I don't know in the SEC if you really have any bad offensive lines. Certainly serviceable offensive lines. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really just, him not necessarily being the upper echelon of quarterbacks in this year's class. Will Levis wasn't hard to follow up, but sometimes guys just don't have it. But backup, second, third string guy. Maybe in the right offense he pops. I think what I did see about him is he has a good understanding of concepts. I did see him in the Shrine Bowl. He went through his progressions, and a lot of times that's the name of the game with some of these quarterbacks. Like since you got Bo Nix, he's kind of a one read kind of guy. But if you can see a guy who can take the ball and in those 3 seconds, 3.5 seconds, like, okay, here's option 1, here's option 2, here's option 3, and then get the ball to them, there is some value in that because some quarterbacks, you can drop the play perfectly, but no matter what, rain, sun, sleet, snow, if they're gonna go to their guy whether they want to or whether you want them to or not. So I think I did see that in the bowl game where he did go to like the second or the third read. So I think that is some redeeming redeeming quality to him. So it's just going to really see on the interviews, the drills, the pro day, and if guys see something on the tape that kind of sticks out to them.
Yeah, we'll see.
So going on to our next quarterback, we got journeyman, another older prospect, Kedon Slovis, also in the East-West Shrine Bowl. So, a couple years ago, we would have thought Slovis might have been a first-round pick. I mean, he went to USC, was red hot. I mean, I think, 30, 35 touchdowns his, first year. And then got hurt a little bit. And then I don't know what happened. The Pac-12 just figured him out. They figured him out, and then USC shipped him out. And it's been a little bit of a roller coaster since then. Ended up at Pittsburgh after Kenny Pickett and kind of did his thing there. And then he wrapped it up at BYU, and he did what he did there too. And now he's, no more. I think he actually did try to get an additional waiver for a 7th year or something like that. And they said, NCSI said, hell no, you got to go. So, and now he's headed to the league. Do you think, I don't know if he's going to, I don't know what, I have to look at the tape. I don't know what made him pop that freshman year for 30 plus touchdowns. I don't know if it was a certain receiver. I got to go back and look. Was there a certain receiver? Was it their defense? It could have been their defense. USC hasn't had a great defense forever. I don't know what it was. It wasn't Lincoln Riley. He wasn't there yet. It was it Sarkisian? Was he there? Was Sark there?
Probably. I think so. Yeah.
Maybe. Maybe been Sarkisian. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know what happened his first year, and then the rest somebody was keeping him up. But do you think he can do that in the league?
No. He's got kind of a noodle. He's got kind of a, as they say, noodle arm. I mean, even at BYU this year, in the Big 12, his passing grades were pretty terrible. I mean, he threw 12 touchdowns and threw 57% completion. I mean, it wasn't the BYU offense wasn't super talented. He has a couple young guys that have some potential. Maybe we'll see, but overall, there wasn't a lot of talent there outside of some of the offensive line guys. But as far as his skill guys, there wasn't much. But yeah, I think that the college football just kind of figured him out. He's kind of a not very strong arm, not very athletic, just kind of. He's not. Yeah, he's just I honestly think he's going to go undrafted, and probably someone's going to bring him in as a PFA type thing.
Yeah, I think Slovis, maybe Leary, maybe we might be approaching that undrafted territory. I mean, he has the size. I wouldn't call him an athlete by any means either. But maybe somebody sees that USC tape and they're like, you know what? Maybe I can get him back. Maybe they talk to Sark, Sarky was down at the Senior Bowl, like, hey, what did you do to get Slovis to play that good? Just write it down on this piece of paper and we'll slide you a check. I don't know. But yeah, we might be approaching undrafted territory. Maybe Slovis becomes a UFL MVP in 3 years, something like that. We'll see. I certainly thought he was going to be something back in the day, but that doesn't seem to materialize today.
Nope.
All right, going to our back end of the class, we're at Austin Reed out of Western Kentucky. I saw from Reed, he has a little bit of athleticism to him. I think as far as the back end of the class, he may have the strongest arm as far as talking about guys late 5th, 6th, 7th round. I think he might have the strongest arm in the back end of the class. And that's probably what gets him drafted. They might see the arm, they're like, you know what? I can work with this. I said he's got a little bit of a wiggle to his feet, a little bit there. And you know what? I'll take the arm, I'll take the feet, and we'll see what we got. What do you think?
Yeah, I actually kind of agree. Of the later draftable guys, he probably has the best arm. Probably has the most production too. because him and Malachi Corley, they just went off in 2022. He threw for I want to say over 4,000 yards, over 36 touchdowns. So he had big numbers. Kind of fell back down to earth this year a little bit. Not exactly sure what happened. I think his offensive coordinator left or his head coach left. They had a change of coaching or something. Maybe that has something to do with it. Because Corley was still there, and they didn't lose much on their from their offense from pre-2022. So it probably was some sort of coaching thing. But yeah, like you said, and then he put up some big numbers before Western Kentucky over at West Florida, sorry, as well. So I mean, it's there. There's potential there. Again, another older guy, 6-year guy, but yeah, some of the late day three type guys we've been talking about, I think he probably has the most potential to be able to do something in the league. He's okay athlete, like I said. Definitely better than Sam Hartman, but yeah, I think he's got some potential. Like I said, like probably maybe 5th round, something like that.
5th, I can go with 5th. I'll buy it for 5th. It's really going to be interesting to see on day 3, like these guys who are left, like where they stand with the league. Obviously we had our thing with Sean Clifford, and no matter how you feel about it, I respect Goody. Like if you look after Clifford, what was left? And that's going to be what some of these teams are going to see, like, and going back to it, overdrafting, like after Tagovailoa, after Hartman, depending on how you feel about him, after Pratt, after Travis, for the rest of these guys, it's like, if you didn't get them, if you didn't get the other guys, it's like, well, can we afford to wait 20, 30 picks? And so for a guy like Austin Reed, yeah, he may look, ain't nobody else got an arm. Reed's got an arm. Got to take him, and that's just where it's at. So next guy, John Rhys Plumlee out of UCF. Another older guy. Originally was at Ole Miss.
Yep.
And got beat out by Matt Corral. And he played a little bit. Lane would give him a couple snaps here and there. Nice size, 6'5".
He's 6 foot.
He's bigger?
No, he's 6 foot.
I have him at 6. My notes have him at 6'5". Oh,
yeah, he's 6 foot.
6 foot.
Yeah.
Oh shoot. Oh, thank you for that correction. So yeah, he played with Lane Kiffin and Matt Corral at Ole Miss, got beat out by Corral, then ended up at UCF. Honestly, I didn't. He actually had some success at the Shrine Bowl, but I honestly just didn't care for him. He's kind of all over the place between mechanics, between the arm, between accuracy. But somehow, like between him and Leary at the Shrine Bowl, somehow they made it work. And I guess sometimes that's what you gotta do as a quarterback. You're like, you know what? You take this, you take that, you put it together, you have a pie. And that's what he did. So what do you think about Plumlee?
He's actually pretty athletic. He's pretty fast. I'm assuming he's probably one of the faster 40s of the quarterback group. But I think he's expected to run in the 4.5 range. But the funny thing is like Ole Miss even moved him to wide receiver in 2021.
That's right.
Just to get him on the field, get his athleticism on the field, get him, see him doing some stuff. But yeah, I do like his leadership. He's got some definite leadership skills. You see it on the field, him rallying the guys and stuff like that, trying to get down the field, and he'll even get in the face of defenders and stuff like that. So you like that stuff, but outside of that, I just don't think he's an NFL passer. And UCF, they ran the ball a lot. He ran the ball a lot. They did a lot of RPOs and keepers and stuff like that, where he just kept the ball a lot. And they had like 3 running backs they would just cycle through all the time. So yeah, I just think he's probably not an NFL quarterback. I think probably CFL or XFL or maybe Arena League or what have you. I think that's probably where he ends up.
Yeah, I'm definitely giving the undrafted vibes. But I do remember the couple of plays at Ole Miss. He like depending like well, with Lane Kiffin and his quarterbacks, they have like the quarterback one, quarterback two thing where you'd have two quarterbacks on the field. I do remember the couple snaps he had a receiver here and there.
Yeah.
Again, I hate asking quarterbacks to change positions, but maybe that's that's his thing. Maybe
He also has a baseball background, so maybe he goes back to baseball, if anything.
yeah, that's true. Hey, have the the option to go baseball. Well, I'd imagine, because baseball they farm those guys young.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's been drafted by the league.
That I'm not sure.
But either way, he may have a future. But yeah, maybe maybe CFL, maybe UFL, maybe if he decides to convert on his own to wide receiver. But yeah, and at UCF they used to have such an explosive passing game, and it just, I guess, fell off.
I think it's just because they had to fit it to their quarterback. Because the guy that's going to take over him next year, Timmy McClain, probably is a better passer. So you might see it take off next year. We'll see if they can get some skill players around him. But anyway, with that, beyond that, I think he's just not an NFL quarterback. Plummy.
Fair enough. I agree. So our last guy in the class, Jack Plummer, out of Louisville. I have him somewhere between 6'4" and 6'5". I didn't get the official measurement. Another journeyman, another older guy. And I saw the leadership. I saw the ability to navigate the pocket. I wouldn't necessarily call him an outstanding athlete, but maybe borderline sufficient. Not a guy that's kind of going to escape and bust a big run or anything like that. Mm-hmm. He seemed to have a little bit of a football IQ to him. And I saw a couple of times, not all the time, he did make a good read on the ball, or as far as on his progressions. He did make a good read on the defense and find the right receiver. I can't attest to arm strength. Accuracy says to be slightly an issue, but maybe, I think Plumlee definitely undrafted. But maybe Plummer can possibly find his way maybe in the back of the 7th, but possibly a priority free agent.
Yeah, I think he probably gets drafted probably late day 3. He's another guy that's kind of bounced around. He started at Purdue, and then when he went to Cal, and then obviously Louisville this year. And actually I have him at 6'4", 216 at the Shrine Bowl. But anyway, he can actually run a little bit, not a big runner, but he's he's probably one of those guys that, if you need 3-4 yards, he can get you 3-4 yards. If you need more than that, it's not going to happen. But he can move around a little bit in the pocket. And like I said, he can run a little bit, but not much more than that. But he has some decent numbers this year, even with the offense that they're running in Louisville this year, where they kind of ran the ball a lot with Guerendo and Jawar Jordan. But still, he threw for like 21 touchdowns. Completion percentage was 64, so that's not too bad. Just the upside is not super high. But yeah, like I said, I think probably 6th, 7th round. I could see him going.
Yeah, 6th, 7th. Yeah, in a run dependent offense that Louisville had. With a good, well, honestly, not good. I'd say great defense. I think Louisville's defense is underrated. We'll get to some of those guys a little bit further down the stretch, especially in the secondary. But yeah, I honestly, as far as the back end, I mean, I need to see more from Plummer, and maybe some more tape will reveal itself. But yeah, maybe a 6th or 7th round guy who's a game manager. And when your main guy goes down, maybe he can get you through a game, maybe get you through a couple games until your starter returns to the lineup.
Right.
So that wraps up our class. What do you think about these guys overall?
I think kind of like I said at the beginning, it's good at the first like 6 guys, 7 guys, but then after that it kind of just falls off. And it's not very deep because, like I said, because the NLI is just killing the quarterback class because guys are going back and making $500,000, whatever it is, for an extra year of college football. So, yeah, it's the reality. I guess now where the quarterbacks coming in, either you're really really high high level, guy who comes out after his third year, or you're like a 6-year guy. So, like I said, if you don't get one of those top 6, 7, maybe 8 guys, there's not much.
I think this is the second and third order effects of the NIL era in college football. Before that, guys would declare early because it's like, okay, I'm in college, I'm in debt, maybe I don't come from the best background, I got a family I'm trying to take care of or elevate. Guys would bolt to the NFL. They'd have the NFL review board and they tell you, either first round or second round, or they tell you to stay in school, and a lot of guys like, you know what, like I got to get out. They'll take 4th, 5th round, and then, take care of themselves and their families. But now with these deals, take the guarantee, like, hey, if I stay in school, I'm throwing touchdowns, I'm running for touchdowns. Like, hey, I'll take this 1 million, 2 million, 3, whatever the case may be, 200,000, whatever it is, that's a guarantee. I got that in my pocket. All I got to do is keep going up to class and showing up to practice. The NFL is a less, forgiving, beast. Jerry Glanville will say the NFL stands for not for long, and you might bet on yourself, and then before you know it, you're in the league for a year, and then you're on the street the next. So I think this is the beginning of the future, where, especially in the quarterback class, if you've shown that you can lead your team to wins, maybe there's not as much as a push to shoot you out the door, unless there's like a 5-star, right behind you who's like, hey, like, this is my team now, and then you gotta go. But I think we were going to see like the beginning of the class, the upper reaches of the class, going to be guys who may be 20, 21, and they know, like, hey, I'm going first round, I'm going second round. I'm going to take that $20, $30 million deal, whatever. But for the rest of these guys, like, hey, I'm going to keep taking, like, hey, 500 mil a season. I mean, 500,000 a season, 1 mil a season, whatever the case may be. And then until the NCAA says, like, hey, you got to go. And then I'll go see what the NFL can do for me. So right. I think this is the beginning of a trend, where we'll have the 20, 21-year-old guys, and then we'll have guys who are 23, 24, 25, and, they'll see what they can etch out at the next level.
Yep, definitely.
All right. So next week is running backs. Who are you excited about to talk about?
I like Cedric Benson, I like there's Marshawn Lloyd. There's a few guys I like, and then the class that get hurt a little bit with guys going back. But yeah, like I said, Benson, Lloyd, I like Ray Davis, Jonathan Brooks, although coming off the ACL, Jalen Wright, Rasheen Ali. There's a number of guys I like.
All right. You named everybody I was gonna, well, not everybody, but you named most of them. So all right, so thanks for watching, Cheesehead TV fans. We'll see you next week with the running back class. This is Draft Room 2024. See you next week.